All right, try once more. Masculine. No? We have to get this right. If I don't get this place name correct, then Derek the Page won't believe a word I write on my expenses claim, and I have to recoup some of the expenditure that I've laid out on behalf of the King in assembling purchases for the King's triumph. Please bear with me. Give me another go. Mechelin. Maybe Hans can, of course, maybe Hans can help. Where's Hans? Now that boy has an extraordinary capacity for never being there when you need him and turning up when like a bad penny, or bad stiver perhaps I should say, when you don't. You know, I've spent all week purchasing bits and pieces for the King's triumph, and I'm more than a bit inclined to give a piece of my mind to that lad when he finally arrives. One more time. Mechelin. Oh really? Mechelin. That's where we are, Mechelin. Huh. Good, good. How are we spelling that? What's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think about a tournament? What's the first image that comes into your mind? Exactly. Knights, lances, swords, all the things that we've been talking about over the course of the last couple of weeks. We met in Antwerp, and before that in Bruges and Brussels. That's what we were talking about, and that's what most people think about when they think about a tournament. But I'm here to tell you that I've spent the last week purchasing things in preparation for the King's triumph that, on the face of it, have very little to do with lances and swords and knights, but at the same time have everything to do with lances and swords and knights. Well, I mean things like buckles and... I wrote them down. They are so numerous, I wrote them down because I have to keep a tally of how I am spending the King's money after all. So, for example, I have purchased 3 bushels, mark you, of leather hides, 6 fat leather hides, 600 hinges, 1,500 screws, 1,800 buckles, 800 of which were all filed from single pieces, very fine, 3,600 rivets, 3,600 rivets. And not a sword or a lance in sight, but all absolutely vital because they literally hold the tournament together. No, I mean they actually hold the armour that all the knights are wearing together. The leathers for straps, for the buckles, the rivets, obviously rivet bits of armour to other bits of armour, or rivet the buckles onto the armour, or rivet the leather onto the armour. The hinges are for, well, amongst other things, on the King's or the royal helmet or the knight's helmet. Be you king or commoner, it's the same thing. You need to have a bever and a visor that goes up, a bever that comes down, and a hinge each way that allows you to do that. So all these things are crucial. Without them, of course, everything would grind very quickly to a halt. So when you look at a tournament, when I look at a tournament, I don't see lances and swords and knights. I see rivets and buckles and hinges, not least because every knight's armour seems to be determined to destroy itself. And all I ever witness is great showers of snap buckles and snap straps and hinges disintegrating, which we have to do something. We have to repair, and that is why we buy all these, and why we need tools. I barely started on the tools. We've got 500 chisels, 500 punches, and I could go on, because the other thing that happens is that the armour gets dented and bashed, and then it has to be undented and unbashed, obviously, in order to be put back into a fit condition, and then fitted again with its buckles and its straps, and then put back on the knight, and off he goes to tilt or tourney or battle at the barriers or whatever it is that he's doing. And no one ever thinks about it. No one ever thinks about it. I am literally buying this stuff by the wagon load. I had to hire wagons between Antwerp and here in order to transport all this stuff, and we don't give it any attention at all. Well, we don't. I do, and that's my job. It's important because it teaches you something about people, I think, because in exactly the same way that a knight, for every one knight there are hundreds of rivets and buckles, for every one knight there are companies of men and women who serve that knight. And that's as true for the king as it is for the knight. I mean, if you go to the triumph, you will see that there are 2 kings, 2 queens, a couple of dukes, a handful of earls, but that there are thousands upon thousands of grooms and pages and servants, and they are the rivets and the buckles and the straps. And you need to look after them, because if you don't feed your hinges with oil, if you don't wax your points, if you don't make sure that they are clean, if you don't make sure that they are maintained, then they will not serve you anymore. You will be left with armour scattered around, or worse, something will go wrong and you'll end up in harm's way. And in precisely the same way, a great lord, the king, a duke, an earl, a baron, Sir Edward Guildford, my master, needs to look after his companies, because if a great lord does not, then he risks those who serve him not serving him. And there you have, I think at least, half the trouble of my father's lifetime. All the great rebellions at their heart are about buckles and rivets, I would say. And I would go further than this and suggest that you can categorise people in the same wise. Some are great joiners, and they are like buckles. Some are strong yet flexible, like leather. Some are like rivets. When they are stamped, make their stamp, their mark, nothing will move. And then some are chisels and punches. In other words, I am saying that some people are made of parts, and some are tools. And I'll leave to your imagination which category you fit into. Well, yes. Cheers.